It had been 2 weeks since I last heard from my son, Daniel. Normally, he would call me every few days, or at least send a short message, but this time there was only silence. I convinced myself he was busy with work, but my mother's heart kept whispering that something wasn't right. One evening, I could no longer fight the urge. I decided to go to his house quietly, without informing him. My grandson Ethan lived there too, and I hoped to surprise them both. When I arrived, the house looked ordinary from the outside. Lights were off, curtains closed. I rang the doorbell, but no one answered. My worry grew heavier. With trembling hands, I used the spare key Daniel had once given me for emergencies. The moment I stepped inside, an uneasy stillness filled the air. The living room was messy, cups on the table, toys scattered, and unopened mail lying around. It was as if time had stopped inside that house. "Daniel? Ethan?" I called out. No answer. I walked down the hallway to Ethan's room. The bed was neatly made, but something odd caught my attention. A faint sound, like shallow breathing, was coming from beneath it. My heart raced. I crouched down, peering into the dark space. Something moved. Fear surged through me, and I stumbled back. My first thought was that maybe Ethan was hiding, but when I whispered his name, no response came. Instead, the shape under the bed shifted again. I panicked and called the police. Within minutes, officers arrived. They carefully approached the bed, shining their flashlights. Then, slowly, they lifted it up. What we saw left everyone in shock. Ethan was there, but not alone. Curled up next to him was Daniel. Both of them looked weak, pale, and frightened. They weren't being held hostage by strangers. They were hiding. The officers quickly checked on them, and an ambulance was called. As I held Ethan close, Daniel broke into tears. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he whispered. He explained through sobs that he had lost his job 3 months earlier. Bills piled up, and he didn't want me or anyone to know. Out of shame and fear, he shut himself away. He stopped answering calls, afraid I would hear the despair in his voice. Ethan, too young to understand fully, only followed his father's lead. They survived on the little food left in the house, rationing every bite until there was almost nothing left. I held Daniel's hand tightly. "Why didn't you call me, son? Why didn't you trust me?" His eyes filled with guilt. "I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want you to see me as a failure." Tears streamed down my face as I realized the depth of his silent struggle. The police reassured us that no crime had been committed, but they also reminded Daniel that isolation was dangerous, not only for him, but especially for his child. That day, I brought my son and grandson back home with me. With food on the table and warmth in their hearts, I promised them they would never face hardships alone again. The shock of finding them under that bed wasn't about danger. It was about how silence and shame had nearly consumed them. From that experience, we all learned a powerful lesson. Silence can be more dangerous than failure. When we hide our struggles, they grow heavier. But when we share them, they become lighter, because love has a way of carrying the weight with us. Never let pride or shame stop you from reaching out to loved ones. Families are meant to support one another in times of hardship. Silence creates distance, but honesty builds bridges. Speak up, because asking for help is not weakness, it is strength.